Journalists. Sachi Cole is a senior writer at BuzzFeed Canada. Jonathan Kay is editor-in-chief at Walrus Magazine. And a familiar face, former CBC panelist, lawyer Adam Goldenberg is with us tonight. Welcome back, Adam.
Thank you, Wendy.
What's up, YouTube? Today we are covering proof on how the men's rights movement actually has a straight up legitimate case, despite what the feminist movement likes to say. Let's get into it.
Because I think you were a student like for 25 years?
Yeah, right. Finally finished.
So I'll come to you in just a moment, but I'm going to start with John. I'm going to start with the guys tonight on the guys' issues. What do you think about this on-campus men's groups? Should they be allowed? Should they be encouraged?
Well, look, I think the left has largely won the culture war on campuses. Now it's just a question of whether the right can have some sort of dignified fighting retreat, and I think the men's rights movement is part of that. I think, obviously, all groups should have freedom of speech on campus. I don't think men should be treated any differently than women or any other group.
What do you think, Adam?
So I don't think it's actually a free speech issue. No one is saying that these groups shouldn't be allowed to exist. The issue is whether they should get formal recognition from student governments or funding from student governments, and that's a different proposition. Because of course they should be allowed to exist. People are allowed to have opinions that we might disagree with. My view is that you don't want to feed these trolls by shutting them down, by attacking them, because that's exactly the kind of attention that they want. I don't even want to dignify that point of view.
They're trolls?
Yeah,
How have they become so I'm a troll?
Well, I don't know if these are your views or not.
Well, it's a men's issues group. How does that make them a troll?
Because it's not actually about men's issues, and we'll come to this, I'm sure, but I think what oftentimes these groups care about is exposing the culture of progressive thinking that doesn't tolerate conservatism on campuses. They have a point to prove.
How is that a bad thing?
Well, because it's not the point that the group claims to purport
to
represent.
Part of men's issues is the fighting the culture war. If you're saying one side of the fight, culture war gets to fight, the other side doesn't because it's a view you don't agree with?
No, I mean, and again...
No, but they're a troll because of that?
No, I think what they are out for is attention. I think they want to make a point about...
Okay, here's the first proof. If you're going to say, when it comes to a men's rights group or spread awareness for men's issues group on college campuses, and you're going to deny that group funding, or you're going to force them to face a disadvantage that other clubs on college campuses do not get to face, or you're placing expectations on this men's rights or men's issues awareness club that other clubs do not have to face, guess what? You literally just confessed that, hey, the men's rights movement has a legitimate case. You literally just did. Because, let's face it, men's rights movement, like these clubs on college campuses, they're saying that, hey, we're being disadvantaged because we're born as men. And you just actively demonstrated how we're being disadvantaged. Like you are. Men's rights movements are saying, we're being treated like second-class citizens because we were born men. We were born as boys. And guess what? By placing expectations on a club that's designed to promote awareness for men's issues that you're not going to be placing on all the other clubs on campus, you have ultimately confessed to what they are complaining about. You have.
Environment, and I don't want them to make that point.
Lots of groups are seeking attention. Why is that a bad thing?
Well, I think that there's a difference between seeking attention for the sake of seeking attention and seeking attention because you have a point of view that actually matters.
How do you know
I got to bring Sachi in here, and then we'll open this up again. What do you think about these groups on campus? I mean, part of the reason for them being turned down at Ryerson was that they would make women nervous.
Yeah, it would make me nervous. If I'm a woman that goes to a university and there's a men's rights group that's right next door, of course that would make me nervous. I do agree that obviously they're trying to get attention and they want to be, I guess, validated or invalidated, and then they get to feed off of that. But I don't think that they should exist.
But why would it make you afraid?
Because I think a lot of the men's rights movement is actually a response to anxiety about women doing better. And you see this with men's rights groups and men's rights activists who claim that women falsify rape claims all the time, which is not remotely true. And it's a direct response to women speaking up and having a voice and talking. And you see that with posters that say, you know, don't be that guy. and they've changed it to "Don't be that girl." And now, again, the onus is on women.
I'm hearing a lot of.
Okay, and here's the other proof on how men's rights movement does in fact have a legitimate case. Because let's be honest here, everybody, if the men's rights movement's case can be very easily debunked into what this woman is claiming it is, guess what? You wouldn't have any real reason to care. In fact, this woman would even welcome the challenge to have a debate with these men so that she could support her own case for women. She would. The fact that she doesn't want these men to even enter the room, like she doesn't, or the fact that she doesn't even want these men to speak about their issues, it's because she knows for a fact, or she's fully self-aware, that men's rights movement does indeed have a legitimate case. In fact, she's also fully self-aware that their case is so strong to the point where this woman's case against them does not have a leg to stand on when it comes to facts. It really does not. After all, why do you think gag orders have been implemented since the dawn of mankind? Like, why? This is literally what this woman is trying to promote. She's trying to promote censorship as well as a gag order for this exact reason. She knows that the men's rights movement's case is so strong, she has no real means of countering it. She also gave up one of the reasons why she's afraid, because the men's rights movement most likely has legitimate evidence on how so many women falsify or make false accusations towards the men. Like, if you go to any police station or if you talk to any insurance companies, you're going to find them making pretty strong cases or having overwhelming documentational evidence on how making a false claim, in this case, a false claim towards a man with the intention of harm, is a third-degree felony that the majority of women here in the West, as a result of the feminist movement, just don't seem to care about. They really don't. And the reason why they don't care about it is because they have every reason to believe they're going to get away with it. This woman right here, this feminist, has demonstrated that reason. Is because, hey, we're not going to let the men speak. But if men do get allowed to speak, that's a different story, which is why she's afraid. Not because men do anything wrong, but because she knows this men's rights movement does, in fact, have a legitimate case.
Oh, well, what your group really wants is this bad thing. When I pass a feminist group or a group of trans activists, I don't say, what you really want is some negative thing I'm projecting on you. Let them organize. Let them be like any other group and let them have their say, and then we can decide whether
But
what
their
they say
has been bad.
Bad. Look, by the way, when I was younger, way back in the 1990s, there was genuine concern about safety on campus, especially for women. I went to McGill, and there was a lot of violence in the McGill ghetto, which is where a lot of students lived. And people organized. There was walk safe programs because it was a safety issue. People were actually being battered and, in some cases, assaulted.
I think that's different now.
Yeah, it's not any different.
So, of course, that's something that's needed. But what's happened is we've dilated the definition of the word safety. So now safety isn't just about protecting people from being hit or raped. Safety is about protecting people from ideological viewpoint that they find objectionable. And that is a perversion of the word safety.
Safety is feeling like you can go out to a party at your university campus, and if God forbid something terrible happens, you're not going to be disbelieved the next morning.
And protecting you from trolls, apparently. Trolls online because who have views you don't like.
No, again,
that's also
that's
safety.
not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these groups want attention for the sake of having attention.
How do you know what they want? Are you a member of this group?
They're telling you.
They're saying we want to raise these issues, and you're saying that's a bad. That's the word you use. Oh, that's
so
a bad issue.
This
so I don't
is the list of what they say are their issues. This is Canadian Association for Equality, and their guidelines are followed by a lot of these campus groups. Boys, crises issues like education, bullying, suicide, which we've seen is up among older men. Men's health issues, family law, custody is an issue, probably not when you're 20, but later. Legal biases against men and social media misandry, hatred.
But Wendy, as we know, they're just trying to get attention for these issues, which is a bad thing. And by the way, on campus, it is completely true that for decades, we did not take the problem of sexual assault seriously. That is absolutely true. Now, what you do sometimes see is you have a due process problem. You see this in the United States. There's 50 cases going through the courts in the United States where men have gone to the courts because they couldn't get what they consider to be due process on campus. They're
Right.
saying
But that's not
this
actually
is a
what these
serious
groups are about.
Well,
'Cause that
actually,
is-
that is one of the issues they have explicitly raised.
Yes,
So,
but those issues, I mean, for example, the men's health issue, right? Men don't take care of themselves. There are mental health challenges that are more pronounced in men than in women. These are real issues. The issue of making sure that there's a process on campus.
Okay, sir, Mr. Semp, I'll be perfectly straight up honest with you. I've been working at the heart of the hospital for years now, and I can tell you what you just said on a professional news media is completely untrue. In fact, it is the reverse. It is. In reality, we see so many women who just flat out do not take care of themselves. I want proof of that? Here's your proof. Who is actively participating in the body positivity movement? You know, promoting that being morbidly obese is a good thing. I tell you what, it is not the men. It is the women here. The majority of them. Reason why? Well, let me see. How many times have we seen women say, "My body, my choice"? Well, guess what? You got that choice, even when it comes to your inevitable self-deletion. Decided to up the language for clarification purposes. I did. And this is another evidence of how the men's rights movement is, in fact, a legitimate movement that has a legitimate case. Because let's face it, if you have to resort to lying about a group of people or shaming them, villainizing them, or shedding insults, guess what? You have officially lost the case against these people. You have. If you had a legitimate case that you could use to counter this movement's case, you would use that. You wouldn't utilize insults or be so desperate as to just straight up lie and gaslight these people. You would use the facts of your own case against them. That's what you would do.
As rapists unless they've had a chance to defend themselves against those sorts of allegations. Those aren't bad things. But when you lump them in with this agenda that aims to expose some liberal bias, the same sort of people that say, oh, the mainstream media are a bunch of liberals, that is doing a disservice to these issues that I agree with John are important.
I don't understand your viewpoint. You're saying, well, this issue is good, this issue is good, this issue is good, but they have this political bias on the current state of ideology that you object to, so they don't deserve the same recognition as 100 other groups. That makes no
what
sense.
is the argument that these groups are really about stopping the battle against sexual assault?
What is the argument saying?
Yeah,
that
what's the proof of that? That's what these groups are into?
Listen, I mean, you can go online and you can have 1,000 men send you a note as a woman that they would like to kill you. When I go outside, I get men stop me and ask me why I'm not smiling. This is happening all over the place. And obviously there are a lot of issues that are happening with boys and with men, but I think those are issues that have way more complexity than just this issue. Like the issue of men having higher suicide rates, I think that actually speaks to how mental health is stigmatized, how men feel like they can't ask for help. I think that's actually an issue of how
men can't ask for help because of what you're doing right here and now, madam. You're not allowing them to ask for help. Right here, she really just revealed the key piece of evidence of what men, she really just revealed or actively did what men's rights movement has been complaining about. We can't ask for help because women like this are not allowing us to ask for help. Asking for help would be allowing us to speak about our issues that we're having. Because let's be honest here, everybody, we all know what is actually causing the male suicide rate to escalate to such high expectations. It is because of how women here in the West, not all, but a majority of them, as a direct result of the feminist movement, is treating us. That's literally what it is. And this is the main reason why so many feminists like this one don't want the men's rights movement to exist. Because let's face it, or they don't want us to speak or ask for help. Because in doing so, we are going to be revealing what's been causing the male suicide rate. And seeing how this feminist desperately wants to shut it down, guess what? That's a big piece of evidence that she did have some participation in the male suicide rate. And she's fully self-aware that she does. And she doesn't want her participation in that being exposed. That is out of speculation, but that is a pretty big piece of evidence right there.
Masculinity affects men negatively. But I feel like this movement in particular is a direct response to having anxiety about women having something to say.
I think it's fair to say that there's something oppositional here. This is to answer John's question. It's not just about saying that men need more attention paid to their mental health issues, or men need more attention paid to the challenges that boys have in our education system. It's the fact that women are the problem, that women's equality is an issue, and that directing these men's issues as some kind of response, as women cannot gain because then men lose. Yeah. That's what I think is intellectually disingenuous.
Are you telling me that a campus group has been created that's oppositional in nature? That students are oppositional in nature, that they're actually being militant and feisty, and that they're going against established ideologies? That's a scandal. Because when I went to school, all of the groups conformed entirely to the dominant ideology. Okay. So I think you've identified a real scandal here. That
now you're making a straw man argument. I'm not saying that these groups should
everything you've said is ridiculous.
No, because the very first thing I said,
that an oppositional group should be banned is just an entirely ridiculous thing to say.
But the very first, no, John, the very first thing I said was that these groups should not be banned. You've precisely
actually but you said they should not be recognized by student societies, which means they don't get funding and they cannot have events on campus.
So they have a right to funding.
No, but you're saying that they should effectively be
to let any group that forms get whatever money they want from a student.
You're not going to let a hate group in. This is a legitimate policy issue, and you're saying, no, don't let them have events on campus. Don't let them have funding.
So you should get to decide what the Ryerson student government funds.
I'm saying they should be treated fair play, and you're saying they don't get fair play.
I think one of the other things that frustrates me about the men's rights movement is that it's often a lot of straight white men talking to other straight white men about the issues that straight white men are having.
Well, let's ban that. Let's ban that.
Let me get the thought out.
Thing. Okay.
And I think it ignores a lot of other issues that are actually totally valid within what's going on with men. I mean, like, for example, like, they don't talk about how racialized men have different experiences than white men. They don't talk about trans men. They're not talking about queer men at all. They're talking about...
Yeah, because we're talking about men in general. It's not just straight white men. But here's the thing. She's using the race card to try and shame us. There's men of other races within the men's rights movement, madam. There really is. It's not what you're talking about. It really is not. But this is another piece of evidence how the men's rights movement is legitimate. You're now resorting to gaslighting by any means necessary to try to shut them down. In reality, what made college campuses safe was the number one rule that, like, hey, you can disagree with me, but you still have to respect me. Disagreeing is okay, but you still gotta respect me. This woman, this feminist, wants to take that away and saying, like, hey, it's not okay to disagree with women. Women, if you do, you're not allowed to have events on campus. You're not allowed to have funding. That's the expectation that's being placed on college campuses that this feminist and the simp next to her is supporting. That's literally what the expectation is. And let's be honest here. Like we said before, if you're placing an expectation on one club that all of the other clubs do not have to meet, in this case, you're placing expectations on a men's rights awareness club that all the other clubs do not have to meet, guess what? You have actively confessed that the men's rights club, or in this case, the men's rights movement, does in fact have a legitimate case. Because that's one of the issues they are literally trying to spread awareness of. And this feminist and the sim next door just confessed to that. They did.
Class of men that there is.
Hey, we need our own group too, okay?
I know, you're long
So
suffering.
you don't see any of this, John, as being a backlash, like a nasty backlash against women
Actually, on
getting
this,
ahead?
I'm going to agree with the other panelists. There obviously is an element of backlash. There's a culture war out there, and there are people who feel tribalistic on both sides. They say, you know, it's feminism versus the opposite of feminism. It's men versus women. Obviously, and especially.
What's the opposite of feminism?
Well, I was trying to figure out masculinism.
Misogyny
It
is, I think,
doesn't
the word
sound.
you're
It,
looking
does,
for.
it,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound. Masculinism doesn't sound right. The point is, obviously, when you're a student, it's a time when you're oppositional. You pick sides. You're tribalistic about your ideology, and a lot of these groups are expressions of that.
I gotta
it's
wrap
not
up.
a bad thing. It's part of
I
campus
think
life.
there's a difference between having your viewpoint heard and demanding that others listen to you as a matter of right. That's where I disagree with John.
Got to wrap up in 30 seconds, but Sachi.
Okay, I'm going to give you the opposite of feminism right here. The opposite of feminism is treating others the way you yourself want to be treated. That's what it is. Because let's face it, feminism is not about equality. It's not. Feminism is, right now, I don't know if it was this at the beginning, but definitely right now, is just a men's hate movement. It really is. Where you want to hold all men collectively accountable for the crimes of a few men. And that's literally what the feminist movement is actually promoting. What else can you describe that other besides a men's hate movement? And let's face it, like I said before, the feminists here and the simp that's next to her have already confessed multiple times that the men's rights movement does indeed have a legitimate case. They do. If they didn't, you wouldn't. Because after all, they literally just confessed multiple times they want to disadvantage their clubs on campuses that every other club does not get to have. Quite literally. Well, that's all I got time for this one. We'll see you next.